Hey, what's up? It's Dan Riccio and Randip Janda, and we're here to preview the Battle of Alberta. We'll even give you some predictions by the end of the video. We like to maybe stir it up with these two fan bases a little bit through the course of the year, Randip, but now I think it's pretty obvious we're all excited about this series.
No, it gets real now. I'm wearing my Tupac Shakur t-shirt, and this series to me is hockey's version of hit 'em up. There is no love in this series. It is just straight anger. There is history. We're all ready for it. There's high skill. There is nastiness. It hasn't happened in the playoffs in 31 years, guys. So, yeah, bring it. And I think the players are going to bring it. I think the fan bases are going to bring it. And I, for one, am very excited.
So, what's the most important part of this series for you?
Okay, I look at depth scoring, and that's going to be the key here, right? We can kind of break this down as we go, but depth scoring, Edmonton loaded up in the offseason. They ended up picking up Zach Hyman. They ended up getting Evander Kane at one point in the season. They've really added to their top nine. And Calgary, and before I even get to Calgary, I should mention, Tyson Barrie, Evan Bouchard can bring in the points as well. Now, on Calgary's side, their defensive scoring is amongst the highest in the league in the regular season. They've got players on their top line that can do the job, like Edmonton does. But you start looking at further down that lineup, Mangiapane, Tyler Toffoli, and others. I think the key important part of this series will be, all right, who outside of the big line, outside of the superstars is going to step up? We've seen Evander Kane do it for the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. We saw elements of it from Chicago. It was a different type of series. It was really grinded out. But now I think this is going to be more of a similar of a matchup to what we saw maybe in the regular season, a little bit more open, which, second line, third line, and yes, fourth lines this time of the year are extremely important. Which one of those guys are going to step up? So I think depth scoring is going to be vital. We know what the stars can do. We know what the top line can do. But to me, Dan, it really does come down to who's going to be that hero that maybe we didn't expect. Who's that one guy? And I'm going to throw another name in there because he has experience doing this. Blake Coleman has been that guy for Tampa Bay. Do we see a hero like that essentially rise up and be a hero, to provide some depth scoring?
Well, it's obvious, at some point in the series, the Oilers are going to need somebody to be Robin to McDavid's Batman, right? Like McDavid was, if you've been watching the NBA playoffs, like Luka Doncic basically just putting the Dallas Mavericks on his back and threw into the Western Conference Final past the Phoenix Suns. That's what McDavid has been doing for the Edmonton Oilers. They don't get past the LA Kings without McDavid just absolutely going superhuman. So can the Oilers get more from the rest of their lineup is a major question mark for me. And one thing that we got hammered about for talking ahead of Game 7 with the LA Kings was Leon Draisaitl. Now, of course, the injury is slowing him down, but that doesn't change the fact that the Oilers need Leon Draisaitl to have an impact on this series if they're going to beat the Calgary Flames. And I think it was a smart move by Jay Woodcroft to have Leon play with Connor McDavid. He just clearly wasn't moving well enough to play center at the end of that series. He was not getting the results when he was playing away from McDavid. They have to continue that, and that's going to put more stress on Nugent and Hopkins and how Woodcroft sets up the rest of his lineup.
It definitely does. And listen, that's the sad reality is that even if he's hurt, you still need something from him. And what's that going to be? And you feel for Leon Draisaitl because when he's going, he is amongst the best in the league, a top 5 scorer, top 3 scorer when he's in the mood across the NHL. But right now, what is he? What's that percentage at? And can he play through it or can he get better over time is going to be extremely important for this Edmonton Oilers team. Another important element to this series that I didn't mention before, but I do want to hit up is goaltending, right? This is a talking point at Edmonton all year long through the ups and downs. The first round, Mike Smith was great, .938 save percentage against the LA Kings. He really elevated his game after that early blunder. Everything was pretty much smooth sailing. Now you've got a Vezina contender on the other side, a much better team than the LA Kings in front of you in the Calgary Flames. And Jacob Markstrom, no slouch either. His save percentage was near, .950, which is telling us something. This is a guy that I understand they were playing the Dallas Stars who have limitations with their offense, a little bit more conservative, but this goalie matchup is going to be really, really important. And it's important that Edmonton gets a similar effort from Mike Smith. He built confidence in round one. It's going to be an important element of the series because you know what you get in Jacob Markstrom. He's occasionally going to make those puck handling gaffes himself. He's not immune to that. We've seen that in the past, but it's going to be important, to see that matchup and see how it plays out, because Mike Smith played unbelievable in that first round. He's got to continue in the second.
Well, Mike Smith is huge because, look, the LA Kings don't really have the finishing talent, right, that the Calgary Flames potentially do. And what have the Calgary Flames done all year? What has been one of their biggest reasons for success under Daryl Sutter? They feed off of rush chances and transition chances. They are going to, just like the LA Kings did, make it a priority to catch the Edmonton Oilers going south and create odd man rushes going back the other way with neutral zone turnovers and different things that create those opportunities for the Calgary Flames. And that's where Mike Smith is going to have to be absolutely huge. One of my X factors for this series is Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, I know he's about as debated an Edmonton Oilers player as there is on Oilers Twitter, but I kind of agree with a lot of the sentiments that Oilers fans have. They need to be playing Puljujarvi more. I think he played about 60 minutes at 5-on-5 through the course of that first round. That's not enough for a player that had a lot of good results, not just when he was on the ice, but even through the course of the regular season. The stats bore out the Edmonton Oilers had more success, even if it didn't show up in his raw numbers. They had more success when Jesse Puljujarvi was on the ice. And one way that they create some more depth and are able to drive play beyond the McDavid line, I think, is playing Jesse Puljujarvi with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and move Josh Archibald further down the lineup. That would be the one move that I would make if I'm Jay Woodcroft going into this series, because look, Nuge did not have a ton of success. He was below the 50% mark when it came to possession. He did not really have an impact, as big of an impact as he's going to need to have at 5-on-5. And I think one way you help Nuge out is by getting Puljujarvi on his line. Puljujarvi is my X factor in this series.
Well, offense from further down the line is going to be key in this series, because Calgary versus Dallas, that was a different type of series. That was a slow it down, a bit of a chess match. That's the way that Dallas wanted to play it, and they almost pulled it off. But this series is going to be a little bit more open. You're going to need some more pop from your lineup, further down the lineup. Calgary's probably going to bring it. They roll 4 lines. They have confidence in 3 of those lines to score. Edmonton's going to have to match that. You're going to have to find the right, matchups and the right line combinations. A lot of this time of the year, though, Dan, is trust. Does Puljujarvi have the trust of Jay Woodcroft in the playoffs? I guess we'll find out in this series.
He should have it, man. Like, I just don't get it. Like,
the usage tells us otherwise.
I don't get the discourse around Jesse Puljujarvi. Like, results are results, man. And the Oilers are better when Puljujarvi is on the ice. And I don't know how you really continue to debate that. Sure, he might do some things that frustrate you, and maybe he doesn't finish as many chances as he should. But the fact is, the Oilers are getting more of those chances when he is on the ice. That's the biggest thing, rather than taking those chances against when he is not on that line with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. There's one other part of this series that I think is very important, and obviously it comes down to Calgary's top line. They found their way through that first series, and Dallas really gave them nothing. I don't think you could have expected a lot more offense-wise from Gaudreau and the rest, but Matthew Tkachuk didn't score until Game 7. Was that a breaking point for him, where we're going to see the 100-point player finally come out here in the playoffs? His playoff lack of success goes back beyond this year, as we've talked about, and I wonder just how much, Zach Kassian, Matthew Tkachuk from a couple of years ago, that's where the physicality is going to come from in this series. Can Zach Kassian do his best John Klingberg impression? I never thought I'd say that in a sentence, but can he be the guy that gets under Matt Tkachuk's skin and gets him off his game?
And that's where I think Zach Kassian, we saw him in round 1, throwing his body around, especially with those young defensemen. He was able to do that. Can you do that against Calgary? They got a counterbalance. They got some physicality of their own in the lineup. Good Branson, Zadorov, and you go at Milan Lucic. So there's a bit of a counterbalance there. So, they got some heavies. They're bringing in some muscle as well. So I look at that. The X factor to me, and I'm going to go back to this. You talked about it earlier. It's Leon Draisaitl's health. I think if you are in a position where you can offer up a slightly healthier Leon Draisaitl, a player that looks better skating, looks right, he has more confidence in his game, that's going to be huge for this Edmonton Oilers team. He might not be 100%. Can he look better than he did against LA later on in that series? Because you could tell he's not right. And that's understandable from a player's perspective. Hey, man, he's playing through something right now. But it's going to be a huge factor in the series, because he is the Robin to McDavid's Batman. He is somebody that can put up major points, and he can really tilt the rink when he's playing on a different line, when he's, functioning at a high level, even playing with McDavid. So to me, I think it really does come down to, what Calgary is. They're going to roll 4 lines. They've got their balance. They don't have the superstar quality of Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, but they got balance, and they've got the best line in hockey this year. But if Leon's not Leon, I'm really, wondering about the chances. Even if McDavid goes superhuman mode, winning without Leon's going to be difficult.
I just had this thought pop into my head. If Matthew Tkachuk was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, he would be Raphael.
Okay, explain your logic.
He's always the bad guy, Well, not the bad guy, but he's just, he's discontent and he's always causing trouble. He's the troublemaker, and he gets the group all separated. That's Matthew Tkachuk. Elias Lindholm's probably Leonardo.
Okay.
I think.
I thought you were going to go
with be Michelangelo. I don't know,
man. This is your file. This is the Teenage Mutant. I came with Tupac. You come with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Couldn't be further on both spectrums. All right, quickly, a final prediction for the series.
All right, I got Calgary in 6. I don't think this one's going 7. I got respect for what Connor McDavid's doing. He went absolutely unbelievable in that first round. He went off. He picked up 14 points, but I think the Calgary Flames are getting a little disrespected in what you saw in that first round. That was Dallas' series. Dallas played it the way they wanted to play it. Let's go back to the regular season. You mentioned scoring off the rush. You mentioned playing, to their identity. And here's the problem with playing against the Calgary Flames. They can beat you a couple different ways. The lack of structure or compared to the Dallas Stars that the Edmonton Oilers have, you're going to see Calgary open up in this series. And I think those top 3 lines especially, and that first line is going to wake up. I think Calgary ends this in 6. And they are heading to the Western Conference Final.
Give me the best player on the planet. Give me Connor McDavid. He'll put in 4 superhuman performances, and Calgary will be left in the dust. I'm calling it 7 games. Edmonton Oilers go through to the Western Conference Final.
Okay, so you're thinking like this is basketball, where a superstar can just run over games, and there's more randomization in hockey, man. It doesn't. It's bounces. There's everything. Like a superstar is unable to take over every single game.
And what I saw from McDavid, we haven't seen it very often in our lifetime when it comes to how the playoffs generally go. And I think McDavid is just playing on another level, and he's willing this Oilers team to another victory. How do you feel about this series? Let us know in the comments who's going to take the Battle of Alberta. We'll be watching.